From the campus of Volunteer State Community College, this is Inside Politics.
Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Grady Eades, filling in for Nancy Hoskins. Legislative leaders of the 106th General Assembly hope to finish with committee work by the end of April and complete this session before Memorial Day. Several controversial bills have already passed the Senate and are moving forward in the House. But the biggest item still on the table is this year's budget. Joining us this week is one of those leaders, Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey. Welcome back to our program.
Good to be here. Love doing programs like this, Grady.
Well, it's happy to have you here.
Miss Nancy a little, but I guess you'll have to do it. Just see.
Well, first, let's talk about some of the bills that have already passed the Senate. One of those is the proposed change to the state constitution regarding abortion. What's provided in that bill?
Okay, we have it's called Senate Joint Resolution 127. We've actually passed it now 5 times in the state Senate, and it's now passed the state House for the first time in history, actually. And what happened back in year 2000 in a controversial decision called Planned Parenthood versus Sundquist, even the most common sense, at least in my opinion, restrictions on abortion were struck down. Things like waiting period, informed consent. And our Supreme Court at that time ruled that our state Supreme Court gave even more protection for abortion than the federal Supreme Court. It's very controversial and I think a wrong decision. So what this does is start a constitutional amendment process that will allow the people to vote in year 2014 to decide whether they want to leave it like it is or put it back in the hands of their elected official in the legislature where we can actually decide what restrictions there are on abortion here in the state of Tennessee. It's been a long process. We began, as I say, back in 2001, right after the Supreme Court decision. We passed it in the state Senate 2001, 3, 5, 7, and now 9. So we passed it 5 times, waiting for it to pass the House. It will pass the House. Maybe it has already passed the House. It'll come over to the Senate, and then it has to pass again in the next General Assembly by 2/3. If that happens, then it's on the ballot in 2014 for the people to decide to amend our Constitution.
So it actually has a long legislative process to go through.
It does. We're not close to getting finished. So obviously, and we'll get to 2/3 in the Senate. I mean, there's 33 state senators. I think like 25 or 26 voted for it, more than the 2/3 required. I think the House will be the same way. But it's hard to amend the Constitution in the state of Tennessee. Should be hard to amend the Constitution. It's something you need to think about. It has to pass one General Assembly by simple majority, have another election, have another General Assembly, pass it by 2/3, and then it goes on the ballot, and then it has to pass by really a super majority there. It has to be the majority of the people voting in the gubernatorial election. It can actually pass on the ballot and not have the majority that it needs. And so I think in the end it ends up passing, but the earliest this could be would be November of 2014.
Wow, several years from now.
A long time.
Well, let's ask about wine sales.
Okay.
We've seen a lot in the press about wine sales and wine transportation. One bill would allow the sale of wine in grocery stores.
Right.
Another would allow for the transport of wine across state lines.
Right.
Can you give us an update on where these bills are?
Absolutely. Well, first, let's take one at a time. The first one deals with the sale of wine in grocery stores, and that's somewhat controversial because right now, wine, of course, can only be sold in liquor stores, and most states allow wine to be sold in grocery stores. But at the same time, most states don't have the same restrictions that we have on liquor stores. Liquor stores can sell alcoholic products only. They can't, and they can't sell beer, they can't sell mixers, they can't sell corkscrews, or just to get a few things like that. So what's going to happen, in my opinion, at least a lot of my colleagues feel this way, that if we allow grocery stores to be able to sell wine without also removing some of the restrictions on the liquor stores, we could actually hurt small business people that own these liquor stores. So that's probably not going to pass this year. We're looking at a broad scope on what we need to do about liquor laws in the state of Tennessee and why are all these restrictions there that have existed literally since Prohibition, are they outdated, et cetera. So I don't think that was going to pass this year, simply for that reason. It needs more of a part of a comprehensive look at the liquor laws in general. Now, the one to allow transport and internet shipment, allow shipment of wines, has already passed the state Senate, and I'm not sure about the House, to be honest, but I think it will pass the House. There's several reasons about that. We have a lot of wineries coming into the state of Tennessee. It's given an alternative to tobacco farming in some areas. In my area in particular, northeast Tennessee, there are several large wineries and small wineries. The problem we have, somebody comes through, and it's become a tourism attraction. People come through, stop at these wineries, buy a bottle of wine they like, go back home to wherever they are, Missouri, Michigan, Ohio, wherever, and then can't get another bottle of wine, even if they want it from that place. So this will allow our wineries in the state of Tennessee to ship out of state. And there's a lot of safeguards in the bill, because I made sure they were, because I was concerned about this, to make sure that we have the proper protection to keep underage drinkers from ordering this wine. I think we've got that in there with the UPS and FedEx of the world. They're relatively used to doing things like this because they're doing it in other states. Most other states allow this. So that bill has passed the Senate. I do think it'll help commerce in Tennessee. As I mentioned, it's kind of agritourism, agribusiness, and that'll pass, and we'll see that moving forward this year.
Very good.
For the shipment part, at least. There's limits on the shipment too, on the number of bottles, so it doesn't open it wide open. It just allows for the kind of boutique wineries to ship their products around the country.
Okay. Well, let me ask about guns.
Okay.
There have been numerous gun bills filed this year, ranging from allowing the carrying of weapons in parks to making it more difficult to search records of permit holders.
Right.
Why is there so much time being devoted to gun legislation?
Well, actually, there's not been that much time. That's always tickles me on the. It seems like the media focuses on it, not us. I mean, it takes about 3 minutes in a committee to pass one of these bills, it seems like. Well, actually, back in 1997, my first year in the state Senate, I actually carried the bill that allows for handgun carry permits here in the state of Tennessee. We now have right at 230,000 people in the state of Tennessee, law-abiding citizens who've gone through that whole process of going through a day-long class, taking a test that you can fail. I've seen it happen. Go to the firing range, get all your fingerprints taken, put those on file, carry a plastic card in your back pocket, pay a $200 fee, all that. Those are law-abiding citizens. We've had 230,000 of them with basically zero problems with that, so very law-abiding. So what this does is expand some of these laws just a little bit further. We've been trying to pass these. As a matter of fact, on Thursday in the state Senate, we actually allowed the carry with permit holders only, of course, to allow them to carry into places that serve alcohol. Right now, if you want to go to Shoney's, you want to go to Ryan, somewhere like that, obviously if you're a handgun carry permit holder, you can do that. But if you want to go to an Applebee's or Old Charlie's, then you couldn't. Well, that bill actually passed the state Senate. That's going to happen now in the state of Tennessee. 33 other states have laws just exactly like this, and I've actually talked to NRA. There's not one documented case, period, of anybody ever abusing this. So this is really much ado about nothing. I remember when I carried the gun carry permit bill back in 1997, there's one writer in particular kept calling it the Wild West bill. And finally I asked this writer, who calls it the Wild West bill? And he said, well, I do. You know, he said there'd be shootouts at stop signs and people would fight over a loaf of bread and shoot each other. And there's nothing like that happens. That's alarmism. It doesn't happen. So the fact that Republicans have gained the first majority in the state House since ever, actually, I started since Civil War. It's actually the first one ever in the state House. Some of these are advancing because they've been bottled up for years. And it's not taking that much time. I mean, today, the bill's on the Senate floor. We had several other bills that had more discussion than that bill. And so it just seems like the media has made a big deal out of this.
Well, they do seem to be attracted to it.
They do. They are.
I want to ask a follow-up question real briefly.
Okay.
I was curious about the rationale for the gun permits in the restaurants that serve alcohol.
Okay.
I've been to Applebee's and Charlie's before. No
Right.
one has ever carded me to see if I was a gun permit carrier.
Right.
How would they know one way or the other?
Well, obviously, if you're breaking the law if you go in there without one.
Sure. They're
probably doing it right now. The ones we don't have to worry about are the ones that aren't breaking the law. So they're not going to like check to see if you have a weapon on you when you come in. But if a lady that has been out and it carries one in her purse for self-protection, then she can keep it in her purse and go into these places. So it's not, they're not going to card you to see if you have one, but it is against the law to be in there now. It'll be against the law in there after this if you don't have a permit. And I'm going to assure you, statistically, and I've seen this statistic, permit holders are safer with their firearms than police officers. So I'm not worried about this a bit.
All right, good.